Alright, so there's a topic that popped up yesterday that I wanted to address. The pros and cons of sacrificing. This is important, but it's not really talked about. Now, this is something that I grew up believing, and since I was taught it, from my parents, I grew up in a Christian home, so this is kind of relevant because this was throughout my entire life for the most part. It wasn't up until, I don't know, a few years ago that I realized how much of my life I've been told to sacrifice for others for the greater good and to put other people first continuously. And there was nothing else added to that. There was no give until it hurts, give until you can't give it. There was nothing of that nature, no limitations, no sort of guidelines to follow as far as when you should stop giving, when you should stop sacrificing. Honestly, there's a lot that kind of you can kind of replace sacrificing with giving for most of the time, from what I found out. Honestly, in many situations, you can just exchange one for the other, and it still means the same thing. But I would have to say, you're willfully going out of your way to put other people first, to put a goal that you are going to work at on a daily basis, or a relationship. That's the main difference between giving and sacrificing, is the fact that you're putting that first, you're taking the steps, you're going there, you're doing this on your own accord, not because someone asked you to or anything like that. So sacrificing means, as far as this goes, it's going to mean something along the lines of that. Giving, on the other hand, someone else could just simply ask you to go give to, I don't know, the offering plates being passed around. They're going to ask you to give some money to tithe, quote unquote, and that's giving. You're not sacrificing because you're being asked to give. The cons, those are fairly standard and straightforward right there. Your time, money, and resources, and occasionally some other things like you are promising to be at a certain place at a certain time to help with a certain event. It could be setting up for a specific event. Just to keep things simple, I'll use church here as an example. You offer to go help out for a specific event, to go set up church at a church. You also said that you were going to go there and help clean up too. You're setting aside your time, as well as planning for something that is happening in the future. That's going to be your call as far as giving or sacrificing here. But since I was in the Army, a more better term for not giving but sacrificing would be, if your battle buddy is in trouble, you're going to do what you can to go get them out of trouble, even if it means jumping in front of a grenade or a bullet. More realistically, it's going to be some sort of explosive device. Since my military deployment was in let's see here, 08 09, and then 2010 2011, there was definitely some emphasis on IEDs and some of the traps and stuff that were set overseas in Iraq. So honestly, that is something that I'm thinking of when I'm talking about, jumping in front, jumping on a explosive device to save your buddy. That's not something that people who are, outside the military ever have to face. They don't have to deal with that. So, more cons. Again, as I said, it's pretty straightforward and simple there. You're going to lose some respect for some people, because no matter what you do, it's never good enough. It's never enough for some of these people. It could be your parents, it could be someone else that you trust and respect. And honestly, some of the cons is just simply losing communication, losing respect, losing other types of access too because of that. There's a social aspect there that I'll just point out, but since this is going to be different for everyone, this may not apply to everyone. If there's anything else, I'll pin it up to the video. The pros, actually there is a few more things. Sometimes you're going to be taken advantage of, and you're going to be used for what you have, your abilities, your in particular your money. People will try to get your money quite a few different ways, and they're going to try to guilt trip you, or they're going to try to sell you something. I'm not going to say lie, but that's definitely up there. But when trying to sell a product, pyramid scheme comes to mind, as well as trying to twist someone's arm to go donate, to go give. So there are people who try to take advantage of you in that sort of way, and you need to know your limit, or else you will find yourself being used without any sort of restriction at all. You know, you give people an inch, they'll take a mile. That saying is very true. So the cons there is simply you could go too far, you could overextend, you can lose a lot of your value, not just your time, but your value, your financial resources, and that goes along lines with other investments that you've made. Not necessarily talking about financial investments, but you know, they do come into picture here. If you're trying to build up a relationship and someone says like, well, without this, our relationship cannot continue, that's just plain extortion right there. Let's see. The pros. Since you are putting effort into this, you're going to get somewhere. It may not be where you want to get to or where you're aiming for, but you're going to get somewhere. So one of the pros there is that whether you are intending to or not, you're going to learn something in the process. You're going to go somewhere where you haven't been before, most likely. If it's a relationship and you've been through half a dozen, probably not. Because it's the same old song and dance with you putting your time and energy and a little bit of money into go treating the other person nicely, hoping for whatever. You could just throw out a relationship there, you could throw out something else. But you've been through the same song and dance, so probably nothing new there. But you'll get to someplace new. Now, what else? You're going to learn more about yourself. This is a little bit tricky here, but you're going to learn more about yourself, who you are as a person, not just not something else that isn't quite so shallow, you know. But you'll learn more about your capabilities. You'll learn more about how you do what you do. You know, like how you operate when people are nice to you, when people ask you to do certain things, when something hits you that's very important that you want to put time and effort and energy into, and even some money. There's definitely some projects out there, Kickstarters, there's definitely some home projects that will take some time and will take a lot of money that you're going to need to be faithful at in order to actually achieve. Sacrificing for that is definitely noteworthy. If it's for something else that you are responsible for, like your family, if you're a head of an organization, you could even use the word noble, because this is for the quote-unquote greater good. This isn't for yourself. People attach sacrifice to what is, noble, and usually it's called like noble sacrifice because it's selfless. It's for others. It's not for yourself. That's another key difference between sacrifice and giving, is the fact that sacrifice is usually almost always for someone else or for the greater good. There's other twists and play on the words about sacrificing parts of yourself to go achieve something greater. that kind of goes down a different line of thought, a different topic altogether. So I'm not going to really, I'll just mention it and just go on. If you are a public figure in any way, shape, or form, you know, could be on YouTube here, could be, you could be a pastor. The pros of giving is that people are going to see what you're doing and they can come to their own conclusions. Like, if you are honest and you're upstanding and a person of integrity, people will notice that and they will generally respect that because of the time and effort that you put into whatever you're focusing on. Especially if it's gone on for years. And I have noticed that. But again, it could be personal, it could be, you know, a church project or whatever, but people will notice that. Well, that's my thoughts on the pros and cons of sacrificing. The importance is this is lifelong. This will go on for a very long time. And the sooner you wake up and realize that you, like, how this ties in with your life and how important it is to you, you can figure out what to do with it before moving on. That's it for today, and thank you all for listening.